Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Reign of Horror. I am your host, Nerd Costa Nostra, and it's Tuesday, October 29th, just about 10 after 7 p.m., where I am located on the west coast of the U.S. And again, if it is still Tuesday evening for you, again, good evening. If not, you're listening to this at a later time, good morning or good afternoon. I hope you are doing well. I hope your day is going well. Tuesday's almost in the books, and we're almost at the midway point. So happy that we're get one day closer to the weekend, one day closer to Halloween, when everyone can go out there and give each other a scare or give each other a fright. It's always a good time every year. So, yeah. Thus far, it's been, like I said, it's been a good day. Some things have come up in the news between last night's episode and today. Some interesting things, some not so surprising things. I think a couple of these topics that we're going to cover tonight have kind of been things in the works. We knew were coming, so it's just a matter of just some new information, some new updates that we're going to cover off, and then we'll wrap up the episode just on some fun things, some surprising information about some movies that we may not have known about in the horror genre, and we have another ranking, another article's ranking of what the 5 best horror movies to watch might be. So we'll see if we agree with this top 5, if we don't agree with this top 5. But again, like I've always said, I think movies and TV shows, really just about anything, but since we're focusing on movies and TV shows here at the Reign of Horror, I think it's very we can all have our opinions, right? I'm gonna like something that you're not. You're gonna like something I'm not, and that's okay. So, but we're still gonna take at this list and see. Hey, we might be in a full agreement with them, and we might make some changes. Who knows? So, yeah. So again, I hope everyone's doing well tonight. So we'll try to make this kind of laid back episode tonight, and just kind of go through some of these topics. So we're just gonna jump right into it. So our first topic tonight is around Chucky. So as I was alluding to a few minutes ago, I've never been a Chucky Child's Play fan. Never been a fan of the franchise movies or the TV series. I remember I've tried giving it a few chances. I would watch it, like, yeah, I just can't. It's just not my cup of tea. I would step away for a bit and then try to come back to it and give it another shot. I did that about 3 times, and I think for me, 3 is my max. 3 is my limit. And it was just something, a franchise, a character I could never get invested in, could never kind of find it to my liking. But I know there's obviously a wide range of fans out there who enjoy the Child's Play movies, who enjoy the Chucky TV series. But this specifically speaks to the TV series. So Chucky creator Don Mancini promises fans will see their favorite characters again. So what does that mean? If you see in the subheadline here, even though the Chucky TV series has been canceled, creator Don Mancini promises the characters will return. So as we scroll down here, if you don't know, if you didn't know, if you're just now finding out, Chucky Season 3 aired its finale at the start of May, and even though the series creator Don Mancini had already pitched his idea for Season 4 to the network, and Chucky himself requested viewer support, we learned last month that Chucky, which aired on both Sci-Fi and USA Network, in addition to streaming on the Peacock service, has been canceled. So yeah, so that's going to be the end of Chucky for a while, it's, at least from a TV show perspective, unless another network happens to step in and pick it up and continues on with it. I think we might see this franchise shelved for a bit. So if we kind of go on here, it says it has been canceled. Mancini has already promised that Chucky will return, whether he has his own TV show or not. And we've known for months that another movie is in development. Now, I'm going to pause there for a second, because like I just said, maybe it's good that the franchise gets shelved for a bit. Now, just because it's saying here another movie's in development, we all know. It goes without saying. It doesn't matter if it's horror, doesn't matter if it's action, doesn't matter if it's Marvel or DC, it doesn't matter. just because something is in development does not mean it's ever going to make its way, to the final cut, to the final floor, and to the cinemas for the fans to enjoy. So I'm taking that statement with a grain of salt, just because, again, it's in development doesn't mean it's actually going to happen. So just want to pause there and call that out, because like I just mentioned, I think it's time that this maybe gets shelved for a bit. And I share that opinion with many horror not genres, but franchises. Even my personal favorite, as you can see behind me, I have a framed signed print of Michael Myers by one of my favorite artists. And do I think the Halloween franchise could take some time off and be put on the shelf and to collect some dust? Absolutely. After the recent trilogy, maybe it's time that Michael Myers kind of bows out for a bit and then allows some fresh new content for horror to come out. And I would say that the same about even with Friday the 13th. I mean, we haven't seen much of anything from Friday the 13th with Jason. I mean, I know there's been the TV series that was first coming out, Camp Crystal Lake, got canceled. Now it's supposed to be reviving. So again, it's like we continue to rely on these older franchises to carry the genre through, when I think there's a huge opportunity here for new and fresh ideas for horror that I think the fans would love to see, instead of just seeing the same old characters all the time, right? So again, I'm not against shelving even my personal favorites. Sometimes it's just needed, right? So I think for Chucky and for Child's Play, it might do it some good to put it aside for a bit, and then give it a couple years, maybe a few years, and bring it back to the fold. So we'll continue on here as we see here. And while the cast of the TV show is hoping that the series will be able to continue on a different network, Mancini has taken to social media to assure fans that someday, somehow, they will see all their favorite characters again. And this is just a quick, as you can see here, just a quick post. A couple of the actors and actresses that were involved in the franchise. Again, if we go down here, I just want to kind of jump down to this third paragraph here. A follow-up to all the Child's Play movies, remake excluded. Chucky picked up where the cult of Chucky left off. Don Mancini, who has written every film in the franchise except the remake and directed a few of them, developed Chucky with producer David Krishner. Mancini and Krishner executive produced Chucky with Harley Payton, Alex Hedlund, and Nick Acosta. How do you pronounce that? I'm sorry. The first season had Chucky terrorizing Hackensack, New Jersey. Then he was sent off to a Catholic boarding school for season 2. With season 3, it was DC's turn to experience some Chucky trouble. And that's pretty much where it ends, right? It just kind of just says, hey, are you a fan of the franchise? So again, if you never, I checked out the show again. I'm the type of person, I'll check something out, make a judgment for myself. I did try to give the show a chance, even when the movies just didn't do it for me. Still couldn't get into the character. Still couldn't get into the series, the franchise itself. So again, with this being canceled, I don't feel like I'm losing anything. But again, it's the impact to all those who are involved. And also to the fans who do love the show, right? Who do love this franchise. It sucks to lose something that you like. But again, maybe another network will come in and pick it up, and they'll be able to continue on with season 4. I mean, that's obviously happened with some other popular TV series. So you never know. Anything could happen. So let's jump right into the next topic, which again kind of follows. I'm a little torn on this one too, but we're still gonna cover it. So, Trick or Treat 2. Michael Dougherty provides latest update in new 4K commentary track, and I do have a picture of one of the 4K Ultimate editions I'll share with you all here in a moment. But if we jump right into this here, on the new Trick or Treat 4K Ultra HD edition out today from Arrow Video. Writer-director Michael Dougherty provides an update on the long guessing sequel first announced all the way back in 2013. So we're already talking 11 years since this sequel was even mentioned. and I know there's already word out there that it's coming. So in a new commentary, moderated by Dead Meat's James A. Janis and Chelsea Rebecca, Dougherty confirms that he wrote Trick or Treat 2 with his Krampus collaborators Todd Casey and Zach Shields, and is already storyboarded, but getting it made with the studio system is complicated. Now, I would agree. Getting a movie made with the studio is going to be complicated, but I think for even a film like this, it's probably going to be a bit more complicated, because Trick or Treat came out in, I believe, 2006, 2007. It was when the first one came out. And I vaguely remember watching it when it came out, and I remember I will never watch this again. I just did not care for it. I did not like it. Just, again, it was one of those things that just wasn't my cup of tea. But I know over the years it has garnered quite a cult following. And there's been calls ever since there was talk about a sequel, to have a sequel done. And obviously, as we just read, that the script's written, storyboards are there, but it's just getting the studio to get on board. Now, what does that mean? What do I think about that, getting a studio on board? Well, that could be tough. I think depending upon the story, depending upon how much gore aspect or horror will be involved in this, studios can look at Terrifier 3 recently and say, look at what Terrifier 3 just did. Could we have something potentially here with Trick or Treat 2? And studios might say, hey, let's take a chance. If something like Terrifier 3 can resonate with the audience and bring in the kind of money it brought in, I mean, the highest grossing underrated film in history. If anyone has seen Terrifier 3 and you're watching this, then you know what I'm talking about. I mean, it's definitely the franchise that brings the gore when it comes to horror. And Trick or Treat 2, I mean, again, it's been quite some time since 2007, almost 17 years, give or take. And if they can somehow bring a new, fresh aspect to the sequel and do something similar to what Terrifier 3 was able to do, kind of that lightning in a bottle aspect, then hey, maybe a studio will be willing to bite and put up some money to get this done and get this out the door. So again, while it's not for me, it's not something I will jump to go see. Now, if it does ever come to fruition, I'll definitely see it. I'll definitely watch it, give my opinion, give my take on it, because I mean, this is the reign of horror. This is a horror channel. We review and watch all things horror related, whether that's movie or TV shows, right? So I will give, and this goes beyond horror, I give any movie, any TV show a chance. And I will, especially with TV shows, I will watch it even if I'm not liking it, I'm not enjoying it, I will still try to give it the full run and make my opinion at that point. As we just talked about with the Chucky TV series, I gave that the full scope of my time to see where this was going to go, and could it change my mind after season 1 and even after 2 and then after 3. But now obviously it's being canceled. I'm still always going to give it a chance, because maybe my opinion could change after one viewing. Maybe it might change as the story progresses. You just never know, right? So obviously with Chucky and Child's Play, it's never worked out for me. No matter how many times I've given that franchise a chance, I just couldn't get there. So for this, I'll give it a chance. I gave the first one a chance. If they happen to get the second one out, I'll definitely give it the time and just give it my honest opinion and review. So that's where we're at with Trick or Treat 2. Now, on this topic, as I mentioned, I wanted to show this here. So Arrow, this is what they were talking about with Arrow. Video brings the ultimate presentation of Trick or Treat to 4K for Halloween. So as you can see here, here's the ultimate edition, or this box set that they're talking about. You obviously get the 4K Ultra HD of Trick or Treat, and it's with a slipcase. You can obviously see, looks like you're getting a poster, some little book over here, and all these like art cards. I'm sure they're probably like small little postcard size art cards of the film. But I mean, like I said, like I always do, and like I've said before, I will provide the link of this article in the description below if you feel you want to read through it, and maybe go check out and see where you can track down this this Ultimate Edition. It says it came out today, on the 29th. So I'd imagine it's probably gonna be on most places like Amazon or something. So yeah, if it's something that you're interested in, because I do notice though with a lot of these, especially with horror, it's always interesting. It always happens with horror, or very sought after. I don't want to say independent films, but films that you wouldn't think would go out of print, and they do. So horror movies like this potentially have a very small run, whether it's a Ultimate Edition like this, or if it's just like the 4K, like right here. If it was just the 4K itself, I remember when Zodiac came out, and when it came out on Blu-ray, and I know it just came out, I think yesterday or today, for the first time on 4K. But I remember when it came out on Blu-ray, it was out for a couple years, and then all of a sudden you could not find it anywhere. It went very under the radar that the studio decided to stop printing the film on Blu-ray, and it just went dormant. It was for a few years you had to pay third-party prices, and that Blu-ray would go I remember going as high as $75 to $100 for Zodiac on Blu-ray. And then eventually they did come back out and start reprinting it and making it more of a common wide release. But with movies like this, I wouldn't be surprised if they come out and they're out for about a year or so, and then you gradually just start to see them less and less and less, and then you find out, oh, it's out of print, and then you're paying that third-party price. That's just going to be, quadruple what you could have paid for if you would have bought it at retail. So if it is a movie that interests you and you want that physical copy in your collection, because I'm a big proponent of physical media, especially when it's something that you enjoy. If it's a movie that you know you're going to enjoy, it's one of your favorites, and it's on physical, buy a copy on physical. If you can afford it and you can buy 2 copies, buy 2 copies, because you never know when that one copy that you have, something happens to it, that disc gets scratched, something gets broken, or just something happens, and then you're going to be kicking yourself wondering, I wish I had a second copy. So if you're going to swing it, you can afford it, I would recommend buying 2 copies, especially if it's one of your favorite films on physical. Now, don't get me wrong, I buy digital as well. If something comes out on digital, I will buy it as well, because sometimes if it's one of my favorites, I don't want to wait a month and a half before physical comes out. And don't get me wrong, I'll still buy it on physical, but I want that immediate ability to be able to watch it as soon as it becomes available. So, for example, like Joker Folie à Deux. I know, some of you are already shaking your heads, rolling your eyes, like, that movie was horrible, that movie's trash, why would you even buy that on digital? I'm a big Joker fan. I love the first film. I love the second film. As soon as it came available yesterday, last night, 9 o'clock my time, midnight Eastern, I thought, I was surprised it came out at 9 o'clock my time. But as soon as it did, I immediately purchased it, and then I immediately watched it, and I've watched it actually a few times since last night. And yeah, again, I love the film. I like the film. Could there have been some things I would have liked to have seen different? Some more of maybe Lady Gaga's character in it? Absolutely, but that's a completely different topic, and we'll save that for our sister channel, Quiet on the Set, to cover. Since here we're talking about horror. So let's jump into this on this next topic. Again, I might get some people shaking their heads at me. I might get some people telling me I don't know what I'm talking about, I'm crazy. But it's the Hell House LLC franchise. So here, came out earlier today, Hell House LLC lineage. We knew this film was coming. We knew this film after the Hell House. So just to take a step back, this will be the 5th film in the franchise. However, technically it would be the 6th film, because the first one, Hell House, had 2 versions. You had the regular version, then they actually did end up doing a director's cut, which I think added about 7 to 10 minutes. It didn't add enough to the story to to make an impactful change, in my opinion. But I just want to be clear that they did do 2 different releases for the first one. So while this would be the 5th in the franchise, technically it would be the 6th overall. So because you had again, Hell House LLC, then the director's cut of that. Then part 2, the abandoned hotel. Part 3, Lake of Fire, and then you have the 4th one, which is the Carmichael Manor, which is the sequel prequel. So this was more of a prequel, the Carmichael, to kind of set up how most of this came about, especially if I scroll down here just a minute, like this character here, how this character came to be, like a little bit of the origins of this character, along with a couple of the others that we saw throughout the first 3 films, where there was no origin story really given. You kind of didn't know how these particular clowns or characters came to be or why they were there. So something at least the Carmichael Manor did was touch on a bit of the origin story, which my understanding is Hell House LLC lineage, filming underway on Scariest and potentially final entry. Scariest, I didn't find the first 4 films scary at all. I found there were some creepy parts. Now here at the Reign of Horror, we did do watch parties for each one of these first 4 films, and there were some that I think it was in part 4, the Carmichael Manor. Some did definitely jump and did have some jump scares in there for a couple of our people here at Reign of Horror, and rightfully so. And they were good jump scares. For me, you kind of anticipate sometimes when they're coming, but some people didn't, and it definitely gave them a good fright. So that's always good to see when you can still jump scare some of the hardcore horror watchers out there. So that's always you always know you're doing something right if your movie can do that. So here we get into the article. The hit found footage franchise. Pause there. Again, for me, it's not a hit franchise. For me, it's a one and done franchise. I've watched the first 4. I will not revisit the first 4 again. Will I watch this one, the 5th one, when it becomes available? As you can see here, we'll get to it, but if you just quickly notice, it doesn't come out until around this time next year. Will I watch it? Absolutely. Will we do a watch party of it? Absolutely. Here at the Reign of Horror, because again, we've already invested watching the first 4, so we might as well just finish off if this does happen to be the final film in the franchise. So back to the article. The hit found footage franchise Hell House LLC released its 4th installment last Halloween season. This Halloween season, the 5th and potentially final entry in the franchise Hell House LLC lineage has entered production as of today. And if we scroll back up, I believe this article was as of today. Yeah, so this is literally, they were starting today. Hell House LLC lineage is set to be released exclusively on Shudder in October 2025. We can kind of just go here. Let's just jump down to some of these other key points here. As for the plot, Hell House LLC lineage will continue a deeper dive into the backstories of various characters within the franchise while introducing new characters and storylines. Pause. I don't think that last part's needed. Anyone correct? Put it something. Comment. Put a comment down on the video. Tell me if you agree or disagree. I don't think we need new characters and storylines. Continue what you were doing in 4. Tell me more about how these other existing characters came to be. How did we end up where we were in the first Hell House? Obviously we know how we get to parts 2 and 3, but with part 4 being a prequel, a sequel prequel, and you end that part telling me about these core characters that are the ones doing all the terrorizing, then keep telling me that. And obviously you're going to do that, but I don't necessarily think I need a set of new characters and storylines. Continue with the storyline you already have set up. Just run with that one. So again, that's just my opinion. I don't try and do too much in this final, if this is your final film. I understand you might want to go out with a bang, but still it's going to be very, to me, it might just be very disjointed where you ended the Carmichael Manor, telling us who these clowns were, how they came to be as part of this story, and then you don't finish that story, or you don't focus solely on that story. Again, as a viewer, that's what I'd want to see in this final one. This potentially final installment of the franchise follows on the heels of the prequel, as I just mentioned, Hell House LLC Origins, the Carmichael Manor. When Blade Discussing spoke with Cognetti for the prequel film, the director teased the franchise's future that may give hints on lineage. We have a quote here. He revealed, "I would love to know what happened there at the Rockland County Fair," and that's, so pause real quick, and why it closed down. So that's a big part of the fourth one, especially when they do some flashbacks towards the end of the film. They show some black and white stills of this fair and some like raw footage, and you see where these clowns characters kind of originated from. But again, that was like in the last 5-10 minutes, so you don't really get any more than that in that fourth film. Everything else is really focusing on jumping from one time period to another at the Carmichael Manor of the family who used to live at the manor, and now it's been no one's lived there for like 20-30 years. It's now kind of turned into a hotel, and these people are, these three individuals are there to investigate what previously happened, right? So again, that's where I think they should be focusing on, is focus on exactly what happened there, but make that the primary focus. We don't need more time jumps back and forth. Just stick to one thing and make it great. Young Margaret was there as well. There's the tie-in there, but also that they're going to be, oh my gosh, wow, that should not be that difficult to read. They're going to bring the fair back, and they're going to have it near the county of Rockland. That's been something that's always been building up the whole time, knowing this is going to come back, and what does that mean for the town? That's where I would love to go with it. But once you bring in something with so many moving pieces and extras and moving parts like a fair, that's where you get out of the low budget found footage realm, and you're like, you better have a budget for that, which we don't right now. If I make another Hell House, especially this timeline, where we are going with this stuff, I want to venture away from found footage too. I want to move into narrative, and again, that's all about budget as well. Could lineage finally make the transition from found footage to traditional narrative? Time will tell, but luckily with the release date set for next Halloween, the wait won't be too unbearable. Now, I'm trying to think, have we seen a found footage franchise where 90% of the franchise's films were found footage, and all of a sudden, the very last film, they say, narrative, we're not doing found footage anymore? I don't think we've seen that. Trying to think of the found footage films we've seen, the franchises have pretty much stood their ground with what brought them to the table, and if it was the found footage format, that's what they stuck with. Now, did the look and feel change? Absolutely, because it seemed like when some of these first time films would come out, found footage, and they would be a success and make some money, you could tell studios or what have you would throw more money at them for the sequels, and you could tell they had a higher budget, whether the quality looked better, whether they had better actors, whether the environment where they were shooting was much better, so to speak. It didn't look so just, hey, let's step outside and film. So I think you got to be careful with that. You can lose the grittiness and the whole purpose of the found footage process, especially when you're 4 films deep into a 5-film franchise, and then all of a sudden you're going to change it up. You could alienate a lot of your fan base, because if we go right back, let's just go back to the top of this article, the hit found footage franchise. Again, whoever is saying this is a hit franchise, and whatever fans consider this to be a hit, are you going to alienate them by saying, hey, we're ditching the found footage format? You could, especially on the last film. So I'd say probably not a good idea. Maybe tread lightly if you're going to do that, and definitely have that expectation set forth well in advance. Let's get rid of this ad here. Well in advance of that October 2025 release date, because again, many people, they love the found footage aspect of the horror genre, and again, if you're 4 films deep into something, I don't know why you'd want to change that on your last film, especially when you know this could definitely be the last film. So More to come. We have a year. We have a full year before this one even makes it to Shudder, because this will more likely be a direct to Shudder exclusive, where you can find all the other 4 films, including the 2 versions of the first film. So if you don't have Shudder and you want to watch them all, I would suggest subscribing to Shudder, or I believe they're all on Amazon Prime. I think you can rent them on Amazon Prime. I'm not sure if you can purchase them, because again, I know the last 2 were Shudder exclusive, so you may have to go to Shudder. Anyways, let's jump into our next topic. So now we're going to move away from just, very specific topics. These are just a couple things I found I find interesting as a horror fan or as a movie fan, whether it's interesting tidbits, interesting facts you didn't know about certain movies, or if there was a time when there might have been some movie mistakes made that still got their way into the film. I talked about one a couple episodes ago. I think I might even mention on last night's episode when it comes to Halloween, the original Halloween 78 and Halloween 2 from 81. At the end of Halloween 78, when Loomis is upstairs and he's shooting Michael Myers, and Michael, is backing up and falls over the railing or the banister off the second floor onto the ground and lands there. If you go immediately watch Halloween 2 from 1981, that same sequence is being filmed, but they quickly go from inside the camera view goes from inside the house to outside, and you see Michael back as he's being shot, backing up onto a ramp, and then falls off the second floor onto the ground. So you can clearly see in the second film he's walking up a ramp. In the first film he wasn't. So it's things like that I always find entertaining and interesting when you can find movie mistakes in older films. Even some newer films have them, but primarily in older films where budget was probably like, hey, we don't have the money to reshoot that shot, so we're just going to take what we got and use it and just make it work, right? So very well could have been the case for Halloween and Halloween 2. But so this here, let's just scroll down. So again, just there's only a few of them. It says 15, but I think some of those might be some ads in there too. But so let's just quickly look at this here. Let me make this just a little bit. There we go. We can get it all on one screen. So now the first one here is Psycho 1960. I'll run through this pretty quickly. So Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho was the first film to show a toilet flushing on screen, a detail that shocked audiences of the time as much as the infamous shower scene. Hitchcock also used chocolate syrup for blood in the black and white film to achieve a more realistic texture. Now, the chocolate syrup thing, I think many of us probably knew or have known for quite some time. Now, the whole toilet flushing thing on screen, that was something new for me. I didn't know about that. I think that's kind of odd but interesting that it would shock audiences. But hey, I guess 1960, that obviously was not a common thing to see on TV or in a movie. So we got an ad here. We'll just jump past that. So The Exorcist 1973. Again, I think this is something most of us have known or knew, but if not, the Exorcist set, specifically the room used for the exorcism scenes, was refrigerated to capture the actors' visible breath, which added to the chilling atmosphere. The temperatures were so low that some crew members reportedly wore coats and hats during filming. That's interesting. I mean, imagine trying to that wasn't a very small room. Obviously many of us have probably seen, if you're watching this show and you're a horror fan, I'm sure you've seen The Exorcist from 1973. So you know that room that these scenes were filmed in wasn't a small room. It was a fairly good sized room to make it look like a full size bedroom. So imagine trying to refrigerate that entire thing cold enough for these actors to see their breath, right? All 3 of them. So yeah, pretty interesting. Jaws. So Jaws 1975. The mechanical shark used in Jaws was nicknamed Bruce after Steven Spielberg's lawyer. Bruce proved to be notoriously unreliable, which inadvertently added to the film's suspense as Spielberg was forced to suggest the shark's presence rather than show it. Didn't know. I knew that they had production problems with the shark. Didn't know that the shark was nicknamed Bruce, and was and Bruce was proved to be notoriously unreliable. But again, we always, I think many of us knew that there were production problems. But again, it's always interesting to see, he obviously nicknamed Bruce after his lawyer, so that's pretty funny. This I didn't know, which definitely took me by surprise that someone would go through all this work. So in The Shining 1980, in The Shining, The Haunting, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy manuscript was no prop. Each page was individually typed by secretary to create an authentic stack of papers, adding layers to Jack's descent into madness. Now, that's crazy to think that for that one, I'll call it a prop, even though it wasn't a prop, was all in fact, even for 1980, you're using one of those old school typewriters. It's not like we're sitting here on a PC and then just send it over to the printer and it prints out that quickly. Old school typewriter, old school ink ribbon, and you're doing this manuscript just for this movie, never to be used again. Probably obviously completely discarded, so that somebody or maybe multiple people went through and actually typed out each individual page. That's crazy. That was new. That was a new one for me. I did not know that one. All right, so we got another ad here. Let's get past that. All right, so we have Halloween 1978. This one is well known. This is not a secret to anybody, and I'm not even going to spend much time on this one. This just really talks about the fact that for Halloween they used an old Captain Kirk mask. They painted it white, made the holes slightly reshaped to give it the look they were looking for. And that's how the Halloween Michael Myers mask was created. Again, this is a very well-known thing. I can't imagine anyone would not know if you're into horror movies. Especially Halloween being such a classic that it is. It's a very well-known fact that was the type of mask they were using. Rosemary's Baby, 1968. All the outdoor scenes in Rosemary's Baby were filmed first because Mia Farrow's haircut for the film was so extreme that there was no way to hide it in public. So I'm not sure. Maybe it was just for the times. Maybe that maybe a haircut like that for women wasn't as common in 1968. Maybe so, even so for movies. But when I came across this tidbit, it didn't make much sense to me. Why that would be so extreme. But again, maybe it was just part of the times in 1968. That wasn't something that was very common. Maybe not common in general, but maybe not even common in film. So interesting. So this I knew, and I have a little bit to add to this. So the Blair Witch Project 1999, the Blair Witch Project was marketed as a true story, and the actors were listed as missing or deceased on the movie's website, which confused and intrigued audiences and was a major factor in the film's box office success. I remember that. It absolutely was. And I also remember there was one of the mothers for one of the actors was getting condolence letters and flowers from friends and family because they truly believed that their child was either missing or deceased. So, and I remember when Blair Witch came out, it definitely fooled a lot of people. Now, this again, the sequel was just no good. This could have easily been a one and done. They rode the wave of that success for that first film, but the second film definitely did not deliver. So, moving on, get past this ad. Now, this again, didn't know this one. So, The Silence of the Lambs, 1991. Anthony Hopkins' portrayal of Hannibal Lecter is a mere 16 minutes of screen time in The Silence of the Lambs, make it one of the shortest lead performances to ever win an Academy Award. Anthony Hopkins he's a great actor, phenomenal actor. But think about that. He is well known for this role of Hannibal Lecter, especially for this first film, because he did portray it in 2 more films after this, and it was only on screen for 16 minutes and won an Academy Award for that 16-minute performance. That's insane. Kudos to him. You got talent. You got the acting chops when you can win an Academy Award for a mere 16 minutes of screen time. You're bringing your best stuff to the table. So I did not know this one. This was a new one for me. So The Ring 2002, for the Ring, the disturbing and surreal video watched by the characters was shot separately by the director and then treated with various effects to give it an eerie quality, adding to the film's overall unsettling atmosphere. Not surprising. I mean, that makes sense. Seems like something they would do to make it a bit more eerie for the film. So yeah, not a big surprise there. The Omen 1976. Actually, we just covered the Omen franchise in yesterday's episode. So if you want to hear more about this franchise and my thoughts on the ranking of all the films thus far in the Omen franchise, make sure you check out yesterday's daily update. So for the Omen, the filmmakers initially wanted to use trained Rottweilers for the cemetery scene, but the dogs wouldn't attack the stuntmen. They ended up using untrained dogs, which made the actors genuinely terrified, enhancing the authenticity of their fear. Now, we all know, just reading those two sentences, this would never happen today. Even using real Rottweilers today, they would definitely have to be trained, or would be trained, because I don't think any studio exec, any insurance company would be willing to risk it nowadays to have an untrained animal attack somebody on set for filming, just to, one, have the attack happen, and then two, get that true terrifying feel from the actors. That would never transpire today. And not just that, I mean, animal rights groups obviously would also be engaged or involved, because again, something like this would never happen today. But 1976, different time, different processes, that's for sure. So, but today, that would never happen. Another ad. Frankenstein, 1931. Boris Karloff's removal of the makeup in Frankenstein took almost as long as applying it, requiring up to 4 hours a day. The heavy costume and makeup were so taxing that Karloff reportedly took to consuming large quantities of alcohol to ease the pain. That's insane. And you gotta consider, this is 1931, so I'm sure the process, whether makeup, prosthetics, costumes, all that, I'm sure is going to be far different than what we see today. Whether it's with silicone, latex type things that people can not easily put on and off, but might make it a bit easier than what was being done in 1931. So that's unfortunate that something like this, the removal of makeup and applying it, can drive someone into drinking just to ease the pain of the process. That's unfortunate. But again, 1931, I mean, who knows what was being done, what processes were used to achieve this. But again, if it's driving you to drink, that's a problem. That's definitely a problem. The Birds, 1963. During the filming of The Birds, Tippi Hedren was assured by Alfred Hitchcock that mechanical birds would be used during the famous bedroom attack scene. However, on the day of shooting, real birds were used, and one of them actually clipped her cheek, which was kept in the final cut of the film. I did know that one, but I know many people probably did not know that one. I mean, I'm sure many people knew that real birds were used, but the fact that was a real injury that she had on her cheek, and they actually kept it in the final film, that it was real, I'm sure many people did not know that, or just now finding out. So, but yeah, that was something I had known for a minute. So, and that's it. So that's the end of this one. So yeah, it just moves into another list, but we're definitely not covering that. So the last topic we have that we're going to talk about tonight, and then we're going to wrap things up, is the top 5 horror movies according to fans. Now, I'm not gonna, again, I'll put the link in the description below. I'm not gonna read through this here as far as, talking about cinema, talking about genres, boundaries, so on and so forth. If you want to read through this, feel free. What I want to get to is what fans are saying, and this is a recent article. This was just a couple weeks ago. I want to see what fans are saying are the top 5 horror films. And I'm not going to read the description. I think most of these, all of us are going to know or at least have seen, definitely seen. So we have number 1, The Exorcist, 1973. I wouldn't say it's in my top 5. I'd say it's in my top 10. That 1973's Exorcist, absolutely. Now, do I think The Exorcist Part 2 Definitely was not as good. Still had Linda Blair in it. She did return for the second one. Wasn't nearly as good. Now, do I understand the hate it gets? I don't. I think it still has some qualities, some entertaining aspects to it, but obviously The Exorcist Part 3 was far superior than the second one, and is definitely more enjoyable. But again, I'm one of those people. If you haven't seen it, give it a try, and then you can make a judgment call for yourself if you do or don't like it. Again, I think it has some redeeming qualities to it. Is it the perfect sequel? No, especially not for such a classic film as The Exorcist. But does it deserve the hate it gets? Absolutely not. So again, wouldn't be my number one, but definitely not my top 5. I'm not sure if it'd even be my number 1, but definitely be in my top 10. So let's jump down. Number 2, Psycho. Ooh, while Psycho 1960 was, it's groundbreaking. It's definitely one of those foundational films for the genre. Foundational for, I guess, if we were to give it a title, slasher film. The second, if it's getting the second spot just for the simple fact it's one of the founding fathers of horror, okay, you can make that argument, and I might concede just for that simple fact alone. When was the last time I watched Psycho? If I ask myself that question, it's been a while. So it's not a film I'm reaching for. It's not a film I'm constantly going, man, let's watch Psycho on Halloween night, or let's watch. Hey, we're gonna do a horror watch party. Let's watch Psycho. That's not typically the one I'm gonna reach for. And of course, there were various sequels to Psycho, and even a remake that was done off the original. So. Number 2, I can't support it at number 2. I can support it for me, my top 15. It's in my top 15. It's definitely not my number 2 though. Okay, definitely not my number 2. The Shining, definitely not my number 3. So for The Shining, wow, again, it's for me, it's just one of those. Yes, it's a classic horror film. It's more of a psychological type horror film than it is your slasher type horror. If you think about just the like Psycho, right? Or you think about Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Scream, all these ones that kind of definitely go for that kill factor. Don't get me wrong. This is more of a psychological, and he did end up trying to kill, but it was. I just don't see this as top 5 horror films, and that we're putting The Shining at number 3. No, top 15 for me, definitely not number 3. And again, I could have a lot of people already just being like, this guy has no idea what he's talking about on these first 3 films. They are absolutely where they should be. But again, that's just me. This is just based on my taste and what I like from horror films. I wouldn't put The Shining at number 3 as top 5 horror films. But again, to each his own. Number 4, now this is where I get biased. So number 4 is Halloween. I would have Halloween higher. Halloween, again, you look behind me, Halloween's my favorite. Halloween 78. And I look at Halloween 78 and Halloween 281 almost as one film because, again, as I will always mention, as I continue to mention, it's one continuous night. One picks up where the other one leaves off. So, of course, when I watch one, I typically will immediately watch the other. But Halloween 78, that to me is going to be, for me, for my taste and for what I like, is going to be number 1 for me. Number 1, no lower than number 2. Easily. I can watch Halloween multiple times, several times, and never get bored and feel like, oh, I'm just going to turn this off 10 minutes in. I don't need to watch it. If I'm reaching for a horror film, like, hey, I just need some background noise, or hey, I want to watch a horror film, or like this Thursday on Halloween, what am I going to be putting in? Halloween 78 and Halloween 2 1981. Those 2 are definitely getting watched. That's like a tradition. Get watched every Halloween. So it's definitely going to be up there, my number 1, number 2. And then the last one that they have listed here, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Man, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. I would say Again, top 10, not number 5. Again, it seems like this list however this list was compiled on what fans were saying were the top ones. I don't know what choices that were there to choose from. Obviously, they're picking a lot of the foundational horror films, a lot of the earlier ones that kind of, again, set foundation for the future of horror. I do enjoy this one for what it is, especially being 1974. Now, we have seen a remake of this a couple times. Personally, I did enjoy the remake with Jessica Biel in it. I thought that was a nice remake. 1974, though, definitely not number 5 for me. Definitely not number 5. Again, maybe top 10, top 15. I'm thinking horror films, but not my top 5. That's for sure. So I mean, we looked at the top 5. I think the only one we came to an agreement on was Halloween. Otherwise, The Shining, Psycho, and then we had The Exorcist. I mean, while all great films in their own right, all were played a major role in where horror movies are today. Do I think these are the top 5 horror films? No. And again, you might disagree with me. You might say I'm crazy that these. I'm not saying these films aren't great. I'm not saying I don't like these films. I do. I enjoy all these films, but they're not my top 5, except for Halloween. Halloween is the only one I would have here at a minimum in the top 5, and again at number 1 or number 2. So. All right, everyone. So, so that's the last thing we're going to cover tonight. So that wraps up our topics. I appreciate everyone's time. I appreciate everyone watching and joining me tonight. We will look to be back tomorrow. So tomorrow, day before Halloween, we might cover off on some Michael Myers stuff, but we definitely will be covering off on Michael Myers. If we don't do it tomorrow, we're definitely going to do it Thursday on Halloween, because what better movie or franchise, at least a couple of the films to look at a little bit more closely on Halloween is Halloween, the movie, right? So anyways, everyone, that's going to do it for tonight. Again, I appreciate everyone who's tuned in. If you could, just please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment in the comment section if you agree with any of my assessments, if you don't agree with my assessments, or hey, what are your thoughts? What are your top 5 horror films? Are there any movie mistakes or tidbits, facts that maybe we don't know about some of the films that we've talked about? And again, are you looking forward to Hell House LLC Part 5 and Trick or Treat Part 2? Like I said, I'll give them both a chance. We will definitely, especially Hell House LLC, since we're so here at the Reign of Horror, we're 4 movies deep into watching that franchise. So a couple of us will definitely be checking that out just to finish out that viewing and give a final opinion. I will say I will be doing a review of the first 4 Hell House films here in the next couple of weeks, so be on the lookout for that daily episode, or what I may do is just a standalone video just solely focusing on that franchise, and we'll kind of delve into each one and then give some more specifics on why I don't see it as a hit franchise, but again, that's just me. So all right, everyone, thank you again for tuning in, and I will catch you at the next one. Peace.